Good evening, welcome back to So Into Bourbon, and tonight we're going to find out, Charlie, did I pay too much for this Cream of Kentucky Rye bottled in bond?
Bum, bum, bum. Okay, Glenn.
Yes, Charlie.
You bought this Cream of Kentucky.
I did buy this Cream
And the
of
question
Kentucky.
is, did you overpay? Glenn, how much did you pay for this?
Well, I'm almost embarrassed to admit.
So the answer is yes, he did overpay. Good night, everyone. No, how much did you pay?
I'm not embarrassed. No, I am not almost embarrassed. I am fully embarrassed to admit. I paid $150 for this bottle. This is Cream of Kentucky Rye, bottled in bond.
Okay, so it's a rye bottled in bond. That's interesting. Okay, let's keep it.
I had never had any Cream of Kentucky. Here's the story.
Okay.
I had just left an appointment. I found out that I got 2 homes under contract.
Woo!
Big deals. I was like, you know what? I was out in Corydon, Indiana.
Okay.
And as I'm sure many of our viewers do, and as you do, whenever you're, somewhere else and you pass a liquor store, you pop in and see what they might have.
Yeah.
Well, I walked into Old Capitol Liquors in Corydon.
What a great store.
They had all kinds of great bottles that you're not used to seeing anywhere else.
They had nice bottles on the shelf.
They had some nice bottles on the shelf, and then of course they had some bottles behind the counter. They had Jack Daniel's Sinatra. They had a Remus Gatsby edition.
Priced accordingly.
Well, of course, they didn't have any prices listed,
Which
so you had
means
to ask the...
Priced accordingly.
So anyway, I saw the Cream of Kentucky. I don't know. I just got excited. I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to buy it. Without doing any research, without Googling it.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
And if people assume, I think, because we do a bourbon podcast, they know all about bourbon and you know what everything should cost and what's overpriced and what isn't. Honestly, I struggle to remember my first name most days. So, I'm prone to possibly overpay for something here and there.
Well, this brings up a good point too, because I think unless you are diligently reading releases and social media and following every distillery, there are so many releases and there are so many new brands and new ventures that come out, and MSRP, which is just suggested retail price in this market, is just that. It's just suggested. So, what something costs and what something's worth are often two different things.
So, obviously, MSRP on this bottle I think is around $70, which it is not easy to find. You can't just walk in anywhere and find it.
I've never seen it.
After I bought it, of course, I went home and Googled. Well, you can get it online for somewhere around, I think I saw the cheapest price was $67.99. But once you add shipping, once you add tax, you're looking at $110.
Okay.
So technically, I overpaid by at least $40, right?
But really, we won't know until we drink it, right?
Exactly. That was my next point.
Is it a $150 bottle?
That's the question.
So,
Cream of Kentucky, it's from J.W. Rutledge Distillery, Jim Rutledge.
Jim Rutledge.
He worked for a million years for Seagram's and most notably Four Roses, master distiller at Four Roses.
Yeah, for like 20 years.
Yeah. So he retired and for some reason or another decided, you know what? I'm gonna start my own distillery.
Cream of Kentucky.
So about the time he was doing this, they were looking, obviously we've talked about this a million times before, you start your own distillery, the one thing you don't have is aged whiskey. So he was struggling to find sourced whiskey. So what he did find was whiskey from
Kentucky Artisan Distillery.
Yes, what he did find was whiskey from Kentucky Artisan Distillery out of Crestwood, Kentucky. Evidently they liked it so much they bought all of their stock.
I like this. I'll take it.
So what this is here is a 100% rye, Ryman rye.
That's interesting.
Yes,
because most ryes are not 100% rye.
Yeah, and this stock is from 70 barrels. There's 70 barrels, and that's it. That's it for the Cream of Kentucky rye bottled in bond. Kentucky Artisan Distillery is a grain to glass distillery. So everything's raised on the farm, everything's distilled and aged right there on the farm.
The interesting thing about this, and this falls under bourbon is confusing, on the back of the label it says, Cream of Kentucky Straight Rye Whiskey bottled in Bond is 100% rye whiskey. That is estate, blah, 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 this, that, and the other in Crestwood, Kentucky. The primary grain is Ryman rye with a small percentage of malted rye. So I guess it is technically 100% rye, but it's two different types of rye. So they are using some malted rye in there too. So bottled in Bond, which we know if you've watched any of our other episodes or our shorts, you know that
at least 4 years old.
At least 4 years old. This obviously has an age statement for $150, right?
And it's 100 proof.
Does it have an age statement?
It's at least 4 years old.
It's at least 4 years old. It does not have an age statement. Let's nose this thing and see how bad Glenn overpaid.
I like the nose. That's an interesting nose.
Kind of classic rye.
Yeah,
kind of
very classic
that sweet
rye.
And spicy, and it has a little bit of that funk to it that
it's really
that
straightforward.
Like.
Like
Really,
it's just a straightforward rye. It's got the sweetness and the rye spice. It's pretty pleasant, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's got a nice amber color to it.
It does.
It's actually a little darker than I kind of thought it would be in the bottle.
So it makes you wonder, maybe it is a little.
And it's got an absolutely great cling to the glass. Let's do a little tasting.
Shall we?
See how much we overpaid by.
You know what, Charlie? I like that. You go. I want to hear what you got to say.
I would love to go. I'm a little surprised. It has that kind of classic rye spice to it, but there is a very, very deep kind of chocolate, tobacco,
That's
oaky,
tobacco.
like oaky, like rich flavor to it, and some complexity. The finish lingers for a long time.
It's hanging around.
It does hang around, and it's very pleasant. It's I don't know. It's very creamy and bold. It's really good. That dark chocolate and tobacco really kind of come through on that. And I don't usually get like the tobacco. A lot of times I'm like, what is that? Because I smoke cigars. I don't chew tobacco. I kind of get what they mean.
There's definitely a tobacco note, and like you said, the chocolate. I'm picking up some caramel on it. And the rye obviously is right there, just what you would expect from a rye. And I really don't have, you covered it. I mean, it's creamy. It's
really nice.
Yeah.
It's a really nice. I kind of feel like I can taste that maltiness of the malted rye. But that may just be because I read malted rye.
It's got a great mouthfeel. And there's just a little bit of a hint of like a fruitiness, but not much. It doesn't have that, like that. A lot of times on a rye, I'll get that apple fruit flavor.
I don't get
just a tiny.
I don't get any fruit, which is interesting because that's one of the things I enjoy a lot about rye and why I love rye is that kind of fruit forward, that kind of splash of baking spice and fruit. This doesn't have any of that. It's a really unique. I really like that though. It's different.
I do too. So, what do you think?
Bro, I'm the wrong person.
Is it
a $150 bottle?
$150 bottle? I don't know. Do I feel a lot better about myself
because it's drinkable?
I've tried this?
Yeah.
Yes, I absolutely do.
Here's what I thought it would be, and I kind of wanted it to be, just to watch you squirm a little bit, is I wanted it to be like exactly 4-year-old, just really hot and spicy.
Right.
Because we've had a lot of ryes like that are just, 4 years old, straight rye, here you go. That's a really complex and really nice offering. I really like how unique that is in terms of a rye.
I really do, and like you said, unique. I don't know that I've had a rye that tastes exactly like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That dark chocolate tobacco is wreaking havoc on my palate because I really want to drink more of it to get that flavor.
And that finish is really, it's still just sticking right in there.
It may be older than we think because there is an oakiness to it. But one of the things too is when you're doing your research, and especially when you're looking at bottles, the name matters. And in this case, Cream of Kentucky is an older resurrected brand. Has been around since what, 1888?
Yeah, very popular in the 30s and 40s. Actually known for Norman Rockwell actually used to do the
advertising.
The artwork for the advertising. It was a very popular brand back in the day. Introduced in 1888.
So it's been around for a while. But unless you're 220 years old, you probably weren't around when Cream of Kentucky came out. But you may know the name Jim Rutledge if you've been a bourbon drinker for a while. I find that someone like Mr. Rutledge, who has been in the industry a while and has accomplished
over 50 years,
a lot, and has made some unbelievable product, is not going to put his name and tarnish his legacy with subpar cash grab whiskey.
He wanted something without a corporate structure. So he felt no pressure from above to, oh, you've got to finish product, or you have to push this or do that.
Yep.
He wanted to make classic bourbons the way he wanted to make it, with no pressure. And I don't know where they are. Obviously, like we said, you don't have your own whiskey when you start your distillery, so they sourced this. I think the plan was to make their own. I don't know where that is now.
But if you want somebody out there picking barrels for you and doing blending, it's Jim Rutledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that list is short and distinguished, and he's on that list. Now, I do have a surprise for you.
Okay.
Because I was kind of hoping this would be I was hoping this would be a dumpster fire, and I wanted to make you feel better. But just because I've got my own bottle of Cream of Kentucky.
Charlie, he always has to show me up.
And I thought it would be fun to sample some more of Mr. Rutledge's wares. This is the first release of Cream of Kentucky, the 11.5-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. It is 102 proof. It is sourced from undisclosed distilleries in Kentucky, which is mysterious, and it is an undisclosed mash bill, which is also mysterious, but Jim Rutledge picked it, so it's probably pretty good. So what do you say we
open it?
Heck yeah, we're going to open it. Let's crack this thing open. So it's difficult in this market, right, to find bourbon, and that extends to people like Jim Rutledge, right? Like, it doesn't matter who you are, there is a shortage of bourbon.
Right.
Like, whether you're Glenn and Charlie going to the store to find some, or you're Jim Rutledge wandering around Kentucky looking for somebody to sell you some, there is a shortage of bourbon.
And that's why a Bardstown Bourbon Company has grown so quickly.
Yeah.
And has been able to become one of the largest distillers in the United States.
Yeah.
Because people need bourbon, and they're making it.
The demand is there. So, not as dark as the Rye.
No, this is actually a little bit lighter, which is surprising for an 11.5 year.
Yeah, 11.5 year, that's pretty old. Wolf, it's got a little leggage there.
That old familiar cola smell.
Yeah, I got it immediately too, that kind of sweet. Ooh.
There's some fruit on that too.
Yeah. It gives me some serious wild turkey vibes.
Yeah, you think?
At least on the nose. Let's see if this thing good.
All right. Once again, nice mouthfeel.
Yep. Not as thick as the different mouthfeel completely.
Not as creamy.
Yeah.
Cream of Kentucky. But, and man, my palate's blowing up from that rye. It's hard to pull many notes out of this one.
So my first My first instinct and kind of what I thought when I nosed it, it gave me kind of Russell's Reserve. That kind of wild turkey, fruity, high rye. I get that in the palate as well. It's kind of that familiar wild turkey, but it's very good. It's very refined. It's the perfect amount of kind of sweet and savory and oaky. The oak really comes through on the finish, but that front has that kind of tickle your tongue, kind of sweetness, a little bit of rye spice there. A really nice, I mean, it's what you want.
Yeah, and I don't get a lot of like the semi-sweet chocolate flavor on this one, which usually I guess is attributable to the oak a lot of times, which is surprising with this being 11 and a half year.
I get much more fruit on this one. I get that kind of sweet from the corn. Really nice. But so this bottle is a release from 2019. Retail for about $150. As I mentioned, it was sourced from undisclosed places and has an undisclosed mash bill. But again, I think it harkens to the fact, yes, I said harkens on Cameron, Jim Rutledge put his name on it.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Did you overpay for this?
Probably. No, I don't.
If you had to pay $150 for one of these bottles, which one would it be? Hand that back over here.
Ooh, man, that's a good one.
If you had to make a choice, gun to your head, you have to pay $150 for one of these bottles. Which one would it be?
The rye.
I agree.
The rye.
100%.
The bourbon is very good. It's 11 and a half years old. It's 102 proof. It's a great sipping whiskey. Hopefully you can see the difference in color on those.
The rye looks so much darker.
The rye is really great. I mean, that's a really great offering. They are both good. I think they are both worth the money. But yeah, that rye, if you can find that rye for under what Glenn paid, so you can message him and be like, I found it for cheaper, definitely pick it up. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel bad at all had I paid retail $70 or even $100.
Yeah.
Yes, I probably overpaid for it at $150, but do I have buyer's remorse now that we've tried it? Not so much. A little bit, but
I'll give you $60.
Not so much.
I'll give you $60 for it now.
No.
Dang it. So what have we learned?
Here's what we've learned.
Okay.
If you see a bottle and you want it and you can afford it, even if you know it's overpriced, buy it. Buy it if you want it. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you'll feel good about it. Maybe you'll hate yourself later.
I like that advice. I also like the advice of do your due diligence. You don't have to stand in a liquor store and Google and watch a YouTube video on full volume in there to see if it's any good, because that's just some other idiot's opinions like us. But if you know who the master distiller is, or where they're sourcing their bourbon from, or if it has the checklist, right? Kentucky, straight bourbon whiskey, age stated, proofed right, no additional nonsense, you can probably determine it's pretty worth it just by those things.
Yep.
So educate yourselves.
Live your life.
Live, laugh,
enjoy your life.
Love. Glenn,
we're finished.
We're done. We're giving away a hat and an awesome box of goodies on the 4th of July. You want to make sure you win this hat and the box of goodies. We will pick one of our subscribers on the 4th of July.
Absolutely. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And thank you for watching, as always. Charlie, tell them what to do.
Keep your wallets tight and your bungholes tighter.
Nope.
No, keep your wallets loose and your bungholes tight.
There you go.
Is that what we do?
Everybody.
Good night. If this is my tongue, right? I feel like that it hits in the middle, and it kind of spreads.
Yeah.
Like that, it's very different from usually, because when I swish around, it's like outside in. But this like sits on the middle of my tongue, which I thought was super, that's a great bottle, man. Why are you smiling? What do you have, face filters on there or something?
No.
Am I wearing a mask?
That would be fun.
Get in the right headspace. Got to drink.
Hang on a second. We have learned that.
Good night, everybody. Here's what we learned.
Well, I had a point I was going to make, and then
it's gone. This is why you watch, guys. Right? This is the quality content. No.